ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to DAO Talk Weekly, Season 2. We're rolling right along. Season 2 launched last week. This is your one-stop shop for everything DAOs. I'm Tommy.
And I'm Frisson.
How are you, my friend? It's been a slow week.
I'm good. Yeah. It's been a slow week, but a good week. Maybe a slow week in terms of like DAO announcements, but overall there's a lot happening on chain. And I expect to see more big DAO announcements coming soon. I like the overall level of like on-chain activity is really crazy. Arbitrum 1, which is like Arbitrum's main roll-up, flipped Bitcoin in terms of 24-hour fees this week, which is pretty crazy for like scaling technology. And Optimism's like also growing really fast. So a lot happening on chain in the Ethereum ecosystem. And I think that inevitably leads to more DAO announcements, right? Because DAOs are the sort of most decentralized and credible and secure way to govern on-chain products. So more on-chain activity equals more on-chain DAOs. It's inevitable.
Yeah, slow on the outside, but not slow on the inside, which has kind of got me thinking philosophically about this podcast. Like in a relatively nascent industry with not a lot going on relative to some other bigger industries, sometimes we're going to have weeks that are slow and we're not going to have a lot of proposals and controversial things to cover, and that's okay. But we still have stuff to talk about. Frisson kind of just mentioned it. This is if you're not watching, there's a great tweet from Tally's account about DAOs operating on chain, and it's the Jim meme from The Office where he's pointing at a whiteboard and he points at it and he says, "Real DAOs operate on chain," and he looks at the camera. And the second part is, because an organization is not truly decentralized if it relies on human intervention to actually execute decisions made by the community. I love this meme. Frisson, thoughts on this? I know we could probably wax philosophical for a while on this, but give us a quick little rant breakdown.
Those of you who follow the Tally Twitter account may have noticed an uptick in activity. That's because there's someone new behind the scenes. It's the homie CHG. She's making it rain with incredible memes. So, if you need someone to help you with your DAO marketing, hit up Cool Horse Girl 2 on Twitter. She's a boss. She dropped this meme over the weekend, and it is lit. There's a lot of good replies in this thread too. People talking about like why they care about on-chain governance. Definitely worth reviewing.
What do you say to the people who maybe disagree with this meme? I've seen some replies that kind of disagree with it, but
I think it's like I don't think that like there's really like a logical end state for a DAO that involves human intervention on execution. I think the argument's more about like what's the path to getting there, and is it acceptable for like proto DAOs basically to exist. Stefan from Govern was talking about this term proto DAOs and how we should like call it out as a thing, so we understand the difference between proto DAOs and like mature DAOs basically. But like I think it's actually quite difficult to have like an effect, like to launch an on-chain DAO that functions well and is sustainable and doesn't require any human intervention at the execution layer. And so like I think it's okay. My personal view is it's like okay to use the word DAO if you're like sort of a proto DAO and you're on that path. But I think it's important that kind of folks are aligned. Like if that's not the stated end state for governance, that's a little bit, and there isn't like real traction on getting there. That's a little bit of a red flag for me for sure, especially if you're using the word DAO. But really just in general, if you're an on-chain product, like if I'm going to use your product, I need to understand how it's governed. And not because you're like, oh, well, the team is trusted. Here's their docs faces. No, I need to be able to audit it myself, right? That's why I use crypto. And I think that's true of a lot of like the most sophisticated users and kind of the folks that are bringing liquidity to these products and want to be able to audit the governance. So, I don't think it's really like debatable in my view that sort of like the ideal sort of like end state for DAOs is trustless on-chain governance.
Yeah. And I think like we could probably chart it back to when we first started the pod to now. Like there really is no excuse now for, if you want to fully decentralize and have that, be a proto DAO, but have that path to full decentralized on-chain governance, it's easier than it's ever been, and it'll only continue to get easier. I mean, Aragon responds to the tweet, which is kind of funny because like pseudo competitive, not really. I don't know. We're always blurring that line between competitors and collaboration, but it really is easier than ever, whether you use Tally or something else, to launch a DAO, and also launch a DAO with the path to getting to pure decentralization. Content Code being our little experiment in and of itself. Like we have put our money where our mouth is, and we're actually doing the things we're talking about on this podcast. So if you're listening to this, whether you or someone who needs help, carving a path to decentralization, we have experience doing it on a small scale. And then Frisson is obviously a little more involved with Arbitrum DAO and working on things from a larger scale, and may have some thoughts and some deeper, conversations around that. But exciting stuff. Love it. So yeah, another piece of news out of the DAO ecosystem. Cabin DAO, or also known as Creator Cabins, is actually going to be building a city. They basically, if you're unfamiliar with Creator Cabin, they run, I think it's like maybe a weekend or maybe a week long cohort out in the Texas hillside. They've bought land and basically collect a lot of Web3 talent who wants to meet in real life. So online friends meeting in real life. We love to see that. Coming off ETH Denver, I think we all realize that, oh yeah, we're all friends online, but we're also friends in real life as well. So awesome to see. So Cabin DAO is building an actual city. So building off the success they've had with their cohort and the little land they do own out in the Texas hillside, they are starting to buy more land and rent it out to creators in Web3 for different periods of time. And the idea is to create, an actual functioning city, kind of built from the first principles of Web3. It's pretty cool. I'm excited to see it. I've always seen news coming out of Creator Cabins, and I know John Hillis, I believe, is like the founder of it, is always super active in the DAO space, and is leading the way. I love to see it. Any thoughts on this, Frisson? Would you go out and live there for a little bit?
Yeah, I'd be down. But I feel like you should. You're like the best fit for it, though.
Yeah.
With where you're going with creator stuff, so we should connect you up.
Yeah, definitely. As I was reading this, I was like, yeah, this looks kind of fucking awesome, and I kind of want to get out there and do it. If you're watching, you can see this is a very in-depth Mirror article, kind of detailing the community values and what the city is going to be built on, along with everyone who's been involved. So we'll link that in the show notes. Go check that out. Pretty awesome. Frisson earlier this week did a 30-ish minute Tally product session with Metrics DAO. How'd that go?
It was good. Yeah, it was like a bunch of analysts who do stuff with Metrics DAO were there. Good questions. If you're like just wanting to understand how Tally works and how on-chain governance works, this is a good like 30-minute sesh that breaks it down for you.
We'll link that in the show notes as well. 30 minutes, start to finish. Know how to use Tally. Pretty awesome. So thanks, Frisson, for doing that. Also, Tally Zero launched this week, which is a completely decentralized voting application built on IPFS via Third Web. So basically, this arose from when, I believe, when Arbitrum launched because of traffic, Tally went down, and it kind of brought the issue to the forefront of our minds. Okay, well, what happens if Tally is the only place for people to vote, essentially, but it goes down? So Dennison and the team created a decentralized version, which kind of bare bones, that you can access at any given time without the sexy front end of Tally. So that is live. We'll link that in the notes as well. Frisson, any thoughts about why, maybe if someone may never use this, but why this is important?
Yeah, so we really care about decentralization at Tally and trying to, eliminate single points of failure in the ecosystem. And with the success that we've been having at Tally lately, we've started to realize there are some holes in, Tally in that regard, right? So in order to make governance, really on-chain governance, really easy to use and performant and accessible to everyone, we've built this super powerful API and this indexer that processes all the on-chain events that are related to governance and allows you to have like real-time understanding of proposals and votes and delegation. But that API then is obviously a dependency in sort of Tally's stack, right, for on-chain governance. Like the underlying data, like who's delegated to who and what proposals are live and if they're executed in the votes, is all completely on-chain and completely decentralized. But just like our UI, our front end, right, has kind of a very performant sort of API in the middle that is not fully decentralized. And so that's like a trade-off that we kind of like have to make to make this like awesome experience, similar to like what you would see in other dApps. But we don't want that to be the only option, right? Because maybe Tally is like having an issue or something like that, and there's like a proposal live that is like really important, and all of a sudden this UI that everyone is using to understand where the proposal is at, that's gonna like deploy something really important on chain or swap a bunch of tokens, is not available through our UI. We want there to be a fallback method, right? Not that we expect that to happen. Like, we're very committed to extremely high uptime at Tally, but we have a higher bar for just robustness and decentralization in the ecosystem than 99.99%. And so that's why we built Tally Zero. It's just like a very simple dApp where it's not going to give you all the features and the performance that Tally does, but it isn't dependent on the Tally API and should be up in all cases, so you can interact with proposals if you need to. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, like I said, we back this shit up. We talk about it all the time on this podcast and we tweet about it and we get kind of spicy on the TL, but Tally really is backing this shit up and kind of being the change we want to see in the space. Obviously, we want everyone to use Tally, but if that's not possible, it's not possible. Ultimately, we want more DAOs in the space. We want more decentralized governance. We want more on-chain DAOs, and this is just one way. We're helping everyone get there. All right, wrapping things up this week. Pretty short episode, like I said. It's been slow this week, but there's still things to talk about, and all of these are things you can dive a little deeper into this week. So there'll be a lot of links in the show notes. I encourage you to maybe pick one or pick a couple, go check them out. But we have Delegation Week coming up in about a month's time. Voter Delegation Week is a 7-day event dedicated to exploring the power and potential of voter delegation in the DAO ecosystem. If you're watching this, you can see a little preview of this sexy site. It is not Tally owned. This is a community owned project from some of the largest DAOs and delegates in the space, helping just raise awareness around delegation, why delegation is important, how to either supercharge your delegate career if you are a delegate or want to become a delegate. It's kind of like where Frisson comes in, or if you're just a voter who wants to be involved in government but doesn't want to dedicate a bunch of time to it. That's me. Or if you're a DAO and you want to activate your token holders, get more people delegating, get more people involved, kind of similar to, Butter, which is what we talked about last week with Aave and some of those projects that are happening to incentivize delegation participation. We got a little bit of something for everyone here. So we're really excited about Delegation Week. We'll have a link to the website in the show notes. That'll be live tomorrow. You can go check out the participants. You can register interest if you want to get featured on the website, see all the tweets from people talking about it in the streets, and get prepared for that. That's coming in about a month. Frisson, any closing thoughts on Delegation Week and why people should be excited about it and what they should be looking forward to?
I'm super stoked. Like I mentioned, there's just a lot of activity happening underneath the surface in the on-chain governance world. There's been a ton of interest in this event, a lot of new cool tools that are planning to announce things around the event, a lot of delegates that want to be involved. So super stoked for this. I think it's going to be a good opportunity for the whole on-chain governance ecosystem to show off.
Absolutely. So yeah, get excited for Delegation Week. That has been another episode of DAO Talk Weekly. I believe this is episode 39 or 40. We're quickly approaching episode 50. We've been doing this for almost a year now. As always, go subscribe at daotalk.substack.com for this in written form, tally.newsletter.com for DeFi and more DAO-specific on-chain proposal updates. As always, we will see you next week for another episode of DAO Talk Weekly. Frisson, it's been an honor. Peace.